This is Rick Mabry, and my wife and I bought this place in April of 2020. And it was a traditional, as they used to refer to it, Boca style house. Very high ceilings, very dark rooms, and a lot of colors from the 90s, which are very dark. The kitchen was completely non-functional in that it had an island, a little space to get around it, but no place to really work or do anything. Very dark and it was not inviting to want to do something in, to bake, cook, or anything. I cook in the house. So I'm used to working in a kitchen that's laid out so that you can have access to things, see things, and works. We knew when we bought the place, the kitchen would be redone. The question was, of course, in South Florida, how big do you do it? How little do you do it, given the weather and what can happen down here? This is the fourth kitchen, not the first. This time, the challenge here was finding the talent that had the skills to do the work that we wanted done. So we looked around and we said the job is too big because of the moving of walls, plumbing, and electric. We spent a year going through that process of looking and going through potential candidates to do the work. And doing the work was not only the laying out on a CAD and functionally being sure that what we wanted works, but they had the contacts or connections or the in-house skill and in-house labor to deconstruct and rebuild the framework from which the cabinets would work. When I first met Alan and Luke, that's the first thing they said, well, come on down, we'll show you, our shop. And Alan said, and while you're down, come on over and I'll show you where we make the cabinets. Which I was, I've never been invited into a cabinet shop before. I've asked, but never got invited in. So they showed me something that they were currently working on. I got to see the build. I got to see the joints. I got to see the screws. I got to see the lineup. I got to see the table saws they use and their paint booth where they have to paint some of the wood. So I knew at that point in time, they were the ones that I wanted to do the work. So it was a matter then of negotiating, the right kind of price, the right terms, how do you go forward? They laid out an initial layout of the plan that we had discussed. And of course, as any marriage, you have, well, I want this. And I said, well, that won't work functionally. That's with my wife. So we said that, Alan, here's what we've decided we want. Tell us where we're wrong or where it could be improved upon. And they did that. So, I was quite pleased that they jumped right into it immediately instead of trying to sell me cabinets that were manufactured in Montana or North Dakota and shipped here. They said, here's what we can do in this space. If you need a cabinet that's extra deep with your island or short in your island, we'll manufacture that. And because we make it all. We laid things out and then looked at taking it the next level up, going full height cabinet versus single cabinets, going from 42s up above to going up to roughly 11 feet where the crown is, 11 and a half feet where the top of the crown is. And we decided to go ahead and put the uppers on it, the upper tier, the toppers. The real cabinets went to, I think they're 45s or 47s instead of 42s. So, yes, you need something to assist you to get to that top shelf, but it's worth it to have a place to put those items. The manufacturing process, like I said, again, two sides of this. One is the construction side. The guys who are in here, they were all employees, which gave us into control and dedication from a South Florida building standpoint. They did a very good job. They told me what they were doing. If I had a question, they would explain what they were doing. We got the layout. We moved the wall that would be to the right and moved it back 8 inches. It was extended by 6 inches. And we took it then to the ceiling. And that allowed us to run the cabinets full height all the way around. We did an opening. We increased the width of the opening, sitting here directly behind me back there, which opened up the view from the kitchen looking out through the dining room. And we were absolutely amazed at the increase in visibility and how it looked from the dining room back through the kitchen. It went from the design of this is something on the wall to show someone, to this is now functional. And as my daughter would say, who's an artist, feng shui. On the design side, you can see that my wife wanted a simple shaker type of cabinet. And these styles on these frames are 3.25 or 3.5 inches. And that allows you to dress it up or dress it down. You'll look, they're all inset cabinets. The lining, the spacing between every door, between the appliances and the top and bottom of the sides of the doors is all about 3/16 of an inch all the way around. You can take a tool and measure it. So the craftsmanship, and I'll say attention to detail, that both Alan and Robert have was fantastic. So we go around, you see the height of the cabinets, the paneling, the lights, it's all open, extra lights over top of the range top as far as you're looking down on the countertops from a visual standpoint when you're working. My wife wanted the change up with the white oak. This is a natural white oak with a stain on that's natural. It's sawn a certain way. My wife wanted that, so we went with the black hardware to give an accent. And at the different places, you'll see the younger oak is the lighter in color, the darker oak, or the older oak is a little darker in color. And so the entire kitchen is not all white. There's white on both sides of it. We wanted the gold accents, and we did that. So we went with the 42-inch wide refrigerator. Again, cabinetry storage above. Coming across to this side it's a speed oven, a microwave on top, and oven on the bottom. The cabinets are all 13 inches deep. The middle in there is 16 to give more depth to it. The island in here is 48 inches wide and is 120 inches long. So, and no seams in the countertop. It's a single sheet of stone, and it's a white quartzite. And they refer to it as Cristallo. So that was me chasing all over South Florida, finding stone that I wanted. And it took me 3 months to find it and to get it in. This is where we said you can see through we widened the wall and stepped it back so that you look through the dining room, you can see out both doors the other end of the house. And if you in the other end of the room, you can see all the way across the top here. The cabinetry is below the window, which we didn't touch. This was outside the build zone. And it's also very functional. You don't have, you've got your range here. People's got a sink and the range, and I'm not a kitchen designer, refrigerator. But you don't use the oven at the same time. So I've got the oven and I have a landing spot. I have a microwave and a landing spot. And of course you have to have a bar fridge. Yeah, the one thing that I told Alan and everyone else that I talked with in this whole process is that on the cabinets, I want rollouts on everything. So I want rollouts, tops, bottoms, and I said, here's the numbers of rollouts that I wanted. Pantry, rollouts, every shelf all the way down the bottom. And they're full depth rollouts. And they glide all the way back. I had never seen these before. These can be moved every inch and a half. It's a simple cam. Empty the drawers, clip it out, pop, boom, done. I was surprised. This was something that Alan said they don't do, but I said, this is what I want. I wanted rollouts up above. Why? Because if I want to get to something in the back, I don't have to try to reach to the back. I can reach right here and pull it up. Same thing with the top. I'm tall enough that I can get a hold of things. So that if you're up here and you need something, I can get a hold of it. My wife would have to stand on something to get up there. Again, it's something that I wanted from a standpoint of convenience. The top ones are just a single box for storage. And like I said, these doors are higher than your normal type of pantry. And that they go up. So you get storage 4 feet. The one thing that we did get into, I didn't know that code down here was different, that you had to have 6 inches on either side of your range top for combustibles. So this can't come over here. The cabinet cannot be over here, it has to be offset. So that gave us the minimum 6 inches for rollouts, for shelving, for stuff that you want for spices and what have you. And I have found, yes, you'll use it. Surprisingly, I didn't think so. I had the cabinet set at 18 inches high, 36 high, because I wanted to be able to put coffee makers under it and use stuff and not have it look like it was crowded. We decided to go with primarily, I'm the one who laid out all the electric in here. So they laughed and said the guy with the backslash is going to have a real issue. I have electrical outlets roughly every 15 inches. So that I said, how many times have you been in a kitchen or somewhere and everyone wants to plug something up somewhere and everyone is always gone? And whether it be a hot dish, a mixer, a hand mixer, an immersion mixer, or a phone or a blender or whatever, everyone's looking for that one electrical outlet. So they are multiples in here. Yeah, a little thing. It was a process that took just shy of a year, the time that I started tearing the floors out, actually having someone take the floors out. So we got the last handles put on the doors. It was about 10 and a half months. And there was some timing in there that I was a little slow, so that being out of town. But once we got rolling, we adhered to the schedule that Alan initially laid out. We had a little hiccup here or there on something minor, and it was that they would see, or that they would catch it, I wouldn't, and they immediately said, we're going to replace this. This was almost seamless. Now, I'm not being paid to say that. I really mean that. Again, being the fourth time I've done it. Alan has made it clear, if you have any questions or any problems or something doesn't tweak right, a door doesn't close properly, or a drawer doesn't close properly, or something happens, give us a call. And we'll swing by or work through it on the phone to see what it is before we need to make a change or help, I'll say, remedy what it is. I would describe them as being meticulous. Not only the build guys, because if I'd ask them not to do something, that they fixed it and we'd look back at the plans. Or if I had to call into Luke about something, he would address it. On the cabinet build, they worked with me. And as I was going along, Alan said, well, you're a little different customer in that this being the fourth time, he said, we usually don't have customers looking at pieces of what we do along the way and telling us what it seems to be missing. Things that we know are going to get to, you see them beforehand. So he said, I love it when someone's engaged with us as far as what we're doing and talks about it during the process and points out things that he noted along the way. Some of the things you wouldn't expect, things like the side panels. When they put on the countertop, it moved away from the pin nails, one of the panels. And Robert said, the installers, differences in installers, they used a pin nailer to nail them in from the backside. And he said, I always put a screw in after that to make sure it doesn't move. So again, it's that extra level and explaining what they were doing and why. So Robert went through on every panel and put screws in from the sides to hold them in, to make sure that they didn't move again. Again, something that was already put together and nothing had to have been said, but they happened to see it and said, we need to fix it. So that again is what I get into is you hire someone for the finesse and their knowledge. And what they brought to bear with this was their craftsmanship and attention to detail. Not afraid to explain why they would do something different. And again, I try to have a relationship during the process so that if I say, I don't want this because, or explain to me why I can't do this the way I want it done. It was not Alan against myself. It was how do we get the issue or item resolved to get the best situation for both the installer, the builder, and myself. So from that standpoint, very pleased. Again, craftsmanship. Yes, I would recommend them. In fact, I hope to do a master bathroom, and we had a chat about cabinetry. It will not be as extensive as this, but I said I would like to have the same level of craftsmanship and quality in the cabinets.